Allina Health is proud to support your Loons as the official healthcare provider of Minnesota United. Every day, we provide expert care to keep the team in top form on match day. All across Minnesota and western Wisconsin, you can find the same dedicated providers just a short drive away. It's expert care when and how you need it. Schedule your visit at allinahealth.org today. Allina Health, all together better. Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Sound of the Loons podcast brought to you by Allina Health. It's been a little bit of time. I've been sick. We've had a lot of moving pieces, but we are back. This could be our final episode. I'm not exactly sure if this is going to be our final episode of the year, but we saved the best for last. We have the 2025 MLS Executive of the Year, Shari Ballard. Welcome to the Sound of the Loons.
What are we doing, Zarek? That's what we're starting with?
Oh, yeah. We are diving straight into it. Congratulations. That award was announced yesterday. Obviously, I'm not surprised. Anyone's not surprised. Shout out to Chris, who's behind producing this. He's not surprised.
He looks surprised, to be honest.
But seriously, what does that award mean to you? I know you're obviously going to thank, 1,000 different people because you're one of the most humble people I know, but what's it mean to you to be recognized for your efforts and especially this club to be recognized for their efforts this year?
I think it's more the latter. It really is not false humility. There is nothing that we do. Whether it's you guys playing on the pitch or it's, us working at the club, trying to do all the things we do, that's an individual sport. So it is way more a reflection of the quality of the people we have here. We just got an amazing team. They're highly engaged. They know their stuff and did a really, really great job this year. So in that sense, I'm proud for the club because I think it really does highlight the work that so many people do every day. And I'm also clear. I'm very grateful, but it's definitely not an individual award.
Yeah, well, you're being very humble as always. But again, I think for myself, and I look at this in a very similar light to Dane winning goalkeeper of the year, right? There's a lot of factors in front of Dane that make his job necessarily easy. He might be the one getting the award and getting the plaque and getting the recognition, but there's a lot of individual pieces. There's the back line, there's the midfield group, there's this, our forwards are doing so much defensive work that is at a whole, but ultimately Dane will be that person. And you are the executive, you are the head honcho, el jefe, as some would say if I was still commentating.
I like it.
There you go. But, reflecting back, and again, I'm going to try to take the interviewer hat off. For you as an individual, I know that you're the type of person that wants to push and wants to get better, wants to continually set goals for themselves. How do you think you've improved this year? Just as a leader, there's a lot of different facets. How have you improved, or how do you want to take steps this season to say, I want to be the best leader I can be. I tried to do X, Y, Z.
I sort of sometimes get common questions, but I don't get that one very often. That's an excellent question. Well, you are right in your first assumption that just like for the club, our objective as a club is to get better every single year in all facets of what we do on the pitch and off the pitch. And the only way the entire club gets better is if every single one of us individually and then working together gets better, and that goes for me too. I think I'm always trying, I've heard at this point in my life, I know who I am as a person and a leader. Mm-hmm. So I'm always trying to be a better version of myself, which means making sure that especially when I'm competitive about something or I'm emotional about something, that I'm still listening and I'm still taking in input and I'm allowing people to influence my thinking, because if I'm going to miss as a leader, I'll miss when I'm too locked in on something and I'm not really hearing the feedback I need to hear to get better. So, paying particular attention to that and like I said, trying to be the best version of myself. But there's also one of the great things about this job is because I haven't spent my whole life in sports and or in soccer. As you know, I'm always learning more about the sport. And so that part of it is just, that's not even like a burden. That's one of the benefits of the job, to learn something new around people who have spent their whole lives in it and who are really generous in wanting to help learn. So learning more about the sport. We're obviously as a club, and I'm part of this, learning how to make different kinds of decisions than we've had to make in big ways historically. The decision around Tani is a good example of that in the summer time frame. That's not a decision we've had to make as a club before, where you've got a very, very high impact player. You're in the middle of your season. We're in it. And, you have an opportunity of a lifetime for him, something that's really important for the club. Those types of things were all new ground for me as a leader this year. And while ultimately that decision with Tani is not my decision, I was certainly in on it. And so all those things sort of afford you the opportunity as a leader to take on new things, learn new things from a content perspective, but also learn new things about yourself.
So, and that's an interesting point, because you're open about continually learning the game and growing and evolving your knowledge, your footballing knowledge, as we would say. How do you approach a decision like that, knowing that your history isn't in necessarily selling players? Do you look at it as a commodity? Because I always humble players and say, listen, at the end of the day, we are commodities. We are paid to provide a service, and eventually there's someone younger and potentially better, not better looking, but those two things, there's always someone that is coming in to take your spot. So you have to necessarily look at it. But from a business perspective, did you take past experiences to say, listen, this is an asset we have to think about it? Or did you, knowing Tani and knowing his personality and the potential for him to go and have this life-changing thing, what were some of the things that you took in part of that decision? Because it's a pretty darn big decision.
Yeah, first of all, no, I don't. I understand what you're trying to do with your peers by, keeping people humble, et cetera. No, I don't view players, I don't view any person as a commodity. I really don't. So I don't view the players that way. I don't view salespeople that way. I don't want to be viewed that way. We're all real people with real lives and things we're trying to accomplish. And so, no, I don't view it that way. I think with respect to that decision, and ultimately, we talked about it a lot internally, but, ultimately Khaled makes that call. Mm-hmm. I don't make it. But within the context of sort of trying to formulate my own view on what I thought we should do, just to provide input, sort of taking in a number of things. First, do we think it's the right thing for the player? I think in this case, no question it was. He's been amazing for us, but dream of a lifetime for him. Do we think the economics of it make sense for the club? In this case, it did. The hard part about that one, which and our fans know, the timing of it was just, it's awful. It would have been a hard enough decision, I think, to make at the end of the season, but during the season, that makes it really difficult. And the biggest factor there we're trading off is you lose somebody that's contributing massively on the field, and what is that going to mean for the back half of the year? And I have a lot of confidence in the collective of any team. So my approach to leadership, whether it's this job or any job I've had prior, is it's never sort of a one-person thing. That's just not my model for leadership. The best outcomes I've ever been part of in my life were because you have very talented individuals, but they're working together collectively in a way that makes it way better than what any team could do if they're sort of a one-person superstar model. So the way my brain works on such things is it's an individual view of, in this case, Tani. It's also a collective view of the rest of the guys on the team and the staff and the coaches. And then you're just trying to weigh, what do we think the impact is going to be? Because we want to win too. Yeah. And you want to support the guys, and we don't want the players feeling like we're not trying to win. So that was one of the harder ones, I think, in that sense. In the end, it's a judgment call, and you do the best you can with it.
Yeah. I think, you take as Christopher, as was stated in Wedding Crashers, you take all the information you possibly have.
Are we right? We're 9 minutes in, and we're on Wedding Crashers. But this is excellent.
When Papa's giving advice to Claire, you take all the best possible information at hand, and you make the most educated decision you can, and you have to just live with that. And I think, speaking to Tani and seeing the trajectory and him scoring a hat trick and stuff, and the way the club went, I think ultimately it was the right decision for all parties involved. As much as it is tough losing a player.
It's very hard.
And I appreciate you saying we're not commodities, because that's inside the locker room. We view it that way at times, because
you view it as you are or you're not.
I think players need to view it as that, because at times there's a lot of difficult decisions that aren't personal, but they're made because it's a business decision. And I think that as a player, the faster you can accept that, at times, high level people, in my opinion, CEOs, GMs, have to operate outside of emotion. And I find that you do that very well. You're a very emotional person, but it seems once you have to make that decision, you can mute that and do what you have to do. And again, for example, losing Tanny, if we're being emotional, that was one of the guys, locker room guys, goal scorer, all these different things. And you could say, no.
In the community, part of the club,
Community,
wonderful
here,
human being.
Grown, awesome. I went to, we had him at Easter with our family. He was one of my son's favorite players. And again, if you let the emotion take over that decision, you can make bad decisions in my personal life with my wife, in business as well. And I find that in soccer, at times the high level people will operate outside of that emotion. And then at times, I've been on the receiving end of these things where I've felt that I've been wronged by clubs because I felt I was a good person and I was doing this and I was involved, but they had to make the best decision for the team, not necessarily for me. And that's something where once that kind of calluses you a bit, I find that as a player, you can deal with some of those interactions from teams a little bit easier. And it's not easy because we care. I care about this crest. And a lot of the players do. And we get hurt for the crest and we bleed for the crest and we have tears for the crest. And ultimately, that's something where we have to balance that. But I've found that, in my opinion, your ability to kind of strip down some of those things and to make the right decision is not easy, but that's why you're in the position you are. And that's why you're the 2025 Executive of the Year, because you're doing such things like that. So kudos to you for doing that. And it's not always easy. And I try to, again, tell the players that this is, for me, something where, as an older guy, as the old man yelling at cloud, I think if you can understand that a bit more, it allows you to have even more purpose when you're playing, to put your best foot forward and knowing that that's all you can control.
Well, yeah, you're right in the sense that on a lot of these decisions, the good thing is in a lot of the decisions, the sort of different variables you're taking into account can line up in a good way, where what you're doing is something that is great for the player and they want it and it's great for their life and it's also great for the club. And so those are the best. And then there are scenarios, and it's not just on players, it's on other things too, where you're taking in all the variables, and you do have times as leaders where they don't align, and then you have to make the best judgment you can. I don't think I'm probably very effective, nor do I try to take emotion out of it. I try, because in part I pay attention to, like, what am I thinking and feeling on this topic? And a lot of it is about other people, because I don't think you can be an effective leader if over time you sort of mute your heart on things. Yeah. I just don't think you can. Like, I always want to be a person that when I make a decision that has a negative impact on another person, like, I want to lay awake at night about it, and I want to feel crappy about it. It doesn't mean I won't still make the decision if I believe it's the decision that needs to be made. But I think they both necessarily have to stay alive in you as a leader. Otherwise, you're sort of losing yourself in it. So to me, it's more about not being so controlled by what you're feeling that you can't get to the other side of what is a complicated or hard decision and make the right call, which some people can't. But I have seen the other side of it, where people get so calloused about it that they really don't have any trouble making decisions that negatively impact people. And I don't ever want to be that person. And I think if I was that person, it would affect my decision making. So for me, it's been more a path of learn how to carry them both at the same time and make the best decision you can. And in ways, feel crappy about it. And in other ways, feel like, you did your job. And for the long term, it's probably the right decision.
Well, that's why they pay you the big bucks. And that's why, and that's why you are, again, the 2025 MLS Executive of the Year. Because those are not easy, regardless of any of these decisions in and around sport. They're never easy. There's no right playbook, right? There's no perfect. If there was, everyone would be doing it. But speaking of which, obviously we talked to Tanny. We're going to transition. Crazy season on the field. Variety of highs, variety of lows. More highs than lows, I would say,
for sure.
Ultimately. Yeah. But as you sit back and just reflect on the season on the pitch in terms of those types of things, what sticks out to you? Games, moments?
Honestly, this year, I agree with you. I mean, at the end of the year, unless you win the cup, there's a part of us that's always massively disappointed. And the way it ends, it just ends so abruptly. I'll probably never get used to that aspect of it in sports. But if you say on balance, Shari, what do you think? I think it was an amazing year. I really do. I'm super proud of what we accomplished on the pitch. I'm proud of the coaches. I'm proud of the players. I'm proud of the staff. The things like, as soon as you ask me like what pops out in your mind, I get like visual snapshots of stuff. The first thing that pops out in my mind is the win in PKs at home against Seattle. I mean, I think I died 7 times during that. I'm not kidding. I'm on my next journey. I can't take this. I mean, that stands out. And, you know, just watching that with some of our partners and then with my family at the end, it's just like such a great gift and so fun. Make-A-Wish stands out for me. That's just Tommy and his family, first of all, just like
awesome, amazing
people. And just his ability to, in the midst of stuff that, speaking about like feeling like the world is not fair to you. I mean, that young man would have every reason on the planet to sort of have that attitude, and he's exactly the opposite. So the ability to like meet them and then just help bring some lightness to all that they've been navigating, and the way that came about, that definitely still, like, that will live in here forever. The Miami game, all of it, you know, beating Miami, that was
transitive property, right?
That was so fun. But also that day, you know, like we had so much stuff going on the Great Lawn. So that, I think that game as an example.
Take us into that. Take us in a little bit deeper on that.
Yeah. So there were thousands of people before the game actually watching the game on the Great Lawn. I mean, we were obviously sold out. The atmosphere, I mean, it was just a beautiful sunny day. There was not a cloud in the sky. The atmosphere was amazing. And that sort of view is what we are. That's the best of what we try to be as a club. Great performance on the field. Guys just killed it. Great fan experience, using the platform that is soccer to bring the community together. Perfect day for that. So that game stands out. You know, we do a lot of things in the community that people they don't see it like they see it on game day. But, you know, every Friday in the summer, or once a month on a Friday in the summer, we do food distribution out of Allianz Field with the crew at Allianz. So having the opportunity to do that with Jasmine, who's the CEO over at Allianz, and Julia, they're not only great partners for us, they're just wonderful human beings. They're a great organization. But being able to do that and interact directly with the community and try to just keep understanding what the needs are there. River cleanup with Eco. I mean, we just do it a lot, you know? River cleanup's cool. Big Brothers, Big Sisters with Federated. We do so many things like that like personally you end up carrying with you in these jobs, because they just keep you grounded on,
isn't there a farmer's market as well?
Yeah, that's what that is. So the food distribution is, we call that the free farmer's market.
Yeah, of course.
Because you're right, because what we're distributing is fruits, vegetables, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's still as much need for it as there was the first time we did it. And you do feel like, you know, in that 3 hours that you're doing it, that you're doing something small or large to help the community. So, yeah, all of those things are things that our fans might see some of it, but if you're inside the club, you do see and experience a lot of it, and it just keeps all of us quite grounded on what we're doing here, and back to where we started, that we're individuals, but we're part of a community, and we're part of something larger.
No, I think this community is special, and I think everyone can say that, but to have lived it, to have worked in the community, to have helped raise money for a variety of different places, to see the input from Wonderwall and all the different factions that come out, and
totally.
And they care. And for
100%
lack of a better word, they give it. And I think that's really important, because they have people that genuinely care about making the community better. And from a player's perspective, or at least an old player's perspective, a retired player.
No, we keep you current. It's okay. You don't have to go past tense on that.
The fans give us so much. They fill the stadium. They give us energy. They're there in the cold. They're there in the hot. And it is in my opinion, part of our job to give back, to take a few minutes, to take time, to take hours, to go to these appearances, to give thanks, in a sense, to give back. And I think that's an obligation that players have. And I think when players receive so much, we can give our time, because we can give money and you can work hard and work extra shifts, but you can't get time back. So when you give your time, when you have an hour with Dane, when you have an hour with Michael Boxall or Will Trapp, that means a lot. And I think, thankfully, we have a group of players that understands that.
We do. I mean, that was one of the questions when I joined the club. I was trying to understand. I knew the club had a massive community agenda, but I wasn't really sure how the players viewed that type of thing, and whether, because you sort of sometimes we'll hear like bad stuff about general professional athletes in general, acting minted or not, or being hard to be around or not wanting to give back. And so I did ask some questions about that before I joined the club, and I was told a number of times, no, you won't find that. In particular, you won't find it with most soccer players. There's just a different sort of mindset about it, and you won't find that with the players at the club. And it was true when I got here. It's been true, and it is part of when we decide whether we're going to bring a player in. Part of what it's not just how talented are they on the pitch. It's also what's their value system. And do we think they fit into the culture and the value system of the club? And the examples that you're giving, you're right. I mean, I see it. Our players do so much in the community, and it's not a hard ask. And that aspect, I wish more people knew it and understood it about you and your peers, because it's amazing. And it's, by the way, you know this, but it's not just the players, it's their wives in a lot of cases too.
Of course.
Who are in it together and having such a positive impact in the community without necessarily getting a lot of credit for it. But we're very fortunate. We've got a lot of that here. And like I said, it's players, their wives, and their families, all in it with us. So we're very grateful for that.
I mean, it is a family. And I'd look at everything as a whole. And again, the players want to do it. Even coming on the podcast and just having a chat with me, it's never a struggle to get players. Nectar, I'm going to call you out. You were the only struggle because he's not.
Why is he saying no to you?
He's not the most talk. He's not the most talk. He never done a podcast before, but we did it. We had an awesome time. So, but again, the players are willing to give their time, and I find that I don't know if it's the sport, and it's definitely the people. Like I can promise,
it's for sure the people.
I can promise you that in the recruiting process, the personality is taken into account. That's not something that is lost. It's not. I mean, there's very few examples of players that are so good that their personality doesn't necessarily matter. And ultimately, those players don't last very long because they say, you know what? I'd rather have 3 guys that can help do that one job that are good dudes, as opposed to having one a-hole that sucks, that is a black hole of energy. And I also will give kudos again to the organization because, when you go to Golden Valley or whenever I've been there, it's so welcoming and everyone's so nice and it's like bright. But again, there's a process to that. That's not by coincidence that you're hiring people that want to that go to work and they want to go to work. It doesn't feel like work. They're enjoying it. So for me, I think that is something that this club has really prioritized. And I think you're seeing the fruits of that with players signing autographs and the autograph line. I was telling a story to John G the other day about, Hassani taking the time to sign an autograph for someone in the front row who had his jersey. Yeah. And it wasn't as if it was a Minnesota blank, it was his jersey. So Hassani took the time, chatted with him, got a photo. The kid went to sleep in the jersey. And it's like that 10 seconds is everything. And I know Hassani, he was like, oh, dude, like I really appreciate you pulling me aside. But again, those types of things every player would do, not just him, but every player would do. And I think that's kudos to the organization and the staff and Khaled and management and everyone for bringing good people here to try to foster this incredible organization and this family that we've essentially tried to create.
I think what you're talking about essentially is the culture and value system of the club, and you can't have. I mean, it doesn't matter what your organization is. You can't have sort of parts of the organization that embody that, and then other parts of the organization that don't embody it. It doesn't work. Yeah. Like the only way it works is if it's a consistent way of looking at who are the people that you're bringing into the organization. Of course, they have to be talented at their craft. That's a price of admission. There are a lot of people who are talented at crafts. They also have to be the right value system, fit in the culture, and genuinely want to be part of doing something with other people, collaborating well, and trying to accomplish something collectively that none of us could do by ourselves. And so, yeah, we do look for that. I mean, obviously, we look for it in players. It's true across all of our roles. And we genuinely do not hire people that we think are super talented, but don't want to collaborate or think that their whole role in life is to show everybody that they're the smartest person in the freaking room. Yeah. Like that just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then, and if you do have that, then that's sort of back to where we started. You have to be a strong enough leader to work with them to try to make it better. And then if it's not better, you have to make hard decisions to move on, because it will absolutely kill what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And I haven't seen it from a front office perspective, but I've seen it from a locker perspective.
Of course you have.
Where the best player on the team ends up getting angry, and he just is this Mariana Trench, or I don't know if I even said that right, just sucking energy out of the locker room.
A friend of mine calls that the black hole of negativity.
Yeah, pretty
much. Like totally.
Yeah, and the thing is, these people have more talent in their pointer finger than I had in my entire body over the course of my entire life. But it's just they will drag certain people in, and eventually the team starts losing games, and then it gets worse and it gets worse and it's worse. And eventually the coach says, I don't care how talented you are. Bye-bye. See you later.
Yeah, energy is an interesting thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it's a part of what doesn't get paid, and there's not enough attention paid to it, because it's obviously not tangible, it's not rational, it's not logical, but you can see it when it's there. Like you can see it in individual interactions. There's no such thing as interacting with another person and having it be sort of a neutral thing.
Yeah. You
either walk away from interacting with somebody with sort of a little more energy than you had when you started, or a little less energy than you had when you started. And paying attention to like, what kind of person is that? And are we collectively creating more energy in each other, which is important because energy creates capacity. And the more capacity you have to perform, the higher the ceiling for what you can actually accomplish. So these are not like somebody who's sucking all the energy out of somebody else. That's not a little thing. It's basically taking the capacity of the organization and making it smaller, which means what you can accomplish is also made smaller. So this is a very important point.
At Target, we're ready to cheer with the hometown fans and gear you up for an epic season. Whether watching from the stands or your living room, score big on game day with everything you need for the win. We're here to be your home field advantage at Target and Target.com. No, I echo everything you're saying. I tried to be the minister of culture where I would go, because I did. You're
definitely an energy adder. There is no question about that.
I tried to be like that because I see a lot of value, especially keeping. During the season, it's long. You got to keep your highs low and your lows high, because you don't necessarily want to get too excited when it's going well, and you don't want to get too down. And there was also a lot of energy put into the schedule change. So now we will pivot into that.
Yeah.
That was a huge change. Monumental, some would say, in terms of just the greater picture of MLS going forward.
Yep.
You've given your thoughts. We had an internal meeting. I'm sure you've put some statements out, but for the people and the fans listening to the podcast, what are your initial thoughts on just the schedule change and how that's going to affect Minnesota? I'm sure there's some question marks, but what do you think?
Yeah, we were in, we've spent a lot of time on this one, both internally, but I would also say in terms of the interaction with the league that we have as a team. This topic, the schedule change, competition format, roster rules, probably the biggest bulk of time we spent on any one thing with the league this year. And my view on it, if I try to take the biggest possible picture I can of it, and take what's good for the league, hopefully long term, and also what's good for our club. There are definitely there are 100%. There are pluses in this decision that we will benefit from. I think the ability to start our season in the summer and finish our season essentially the summer in May. I like that. It's difficult sometimes to start the season at the end of February when there's still snow on the ground in cases and it's cold and people aren't quite ready for soccer. So I do like that change a lot. I like the fact that we will be very, very limited in scenarios where we're playing games and we've got 6, 7, 8, 9 guys away playing for their national teams. I think that becomes a competition problem, and it became a competition problem for us. So I think the fact that will be mitigated will help a lot. I like the fact that the situation we dealt with the Tanny decision that we talked about earlier today, we will be much more in alignment. That will not be the next July. That decision would not be in the middle of our season. It would be before the season started. So I like the alignment there, and I think that will help. So I think from a sort of sporting and a soccer perspective, there's a lot of pluses to that decision and not a lot of minuses. For the club more broadly, given our weather situation, what it's going to practically do is it'll mix us into a little bit, probably 2 or 3 games that'll be a little bit cooler on average temperature than what we historically have had. We paid a lot of attention to that because our fans are hardy and we are supported really well. But to get to a complete sellout, if it's, 40 degrees or less, it's harder for us than it is to get to a sellout if it's 50 or above, and we're sensitive to all that. That's a place where I think the interactions we've had with the league and the league really understanding what that means for us and for other cold weather clubs, and equally what it means for Houston in August.
Yeah, been there.
Yes, you have, exactly. So I think that's a place where the league has been really good in working schedule components and being much more strategic about that. So I think the league will help us out there, honestly, from a scheduling perspective. And then we'll get into it and we'll see what it brings. And inevitably with things like this, there are going to be things that we thought would happen that don't. There'll be other things that we didn't plan for that do. And that's where you have to be an organization that can be adaptive and nimble. So we'll go forward. We'll prepare for it. We'll be ready to roll. And then when we run into things that, we love, great. We run into things that we need to problem solve, we will. I also think from a competitive perspective, I like the move to divisions. I really do. I think that one
that's the NFL. That's the NFL.
I was just going to say for more sort of, I'm guilty. I think for more sort of quintessential older school U.S. sports fans, the divisions make more intuitive sense. I also think it does help us. We've got like some rivalries, but they're not like Michigan, Ohio State football or Packers, Vikings football. So I do think that structure with teams that are closer to us geographically that will play more, I think over time will be a benefit too.
I agree. I think in MLS for a while, they tried to structure some of these rivalries.
Yeah, you can't fake. You got to let those things emerge organically.
Yeah.
You can't structure that.
Yeah, and I think over my time with certain teams, there was this natural hatred that developed. Just because it was, again, when I was in Houston, it was Kansas City because they had so many battles. And for some reason, that game was always a little bit different. When I was in Portland, we always had a little bit of something with LAFC, right?
Yeah.
And even, us, these past few years, I kind of sit there and we've, with San Diego, those games are a little spicy and which is great. Again, for me, that's sport. That's natural. Totally. There's a reason Dallas and the Eagles are rivals and they're not even remotely close to each other, but that's just something that happened over time. So I think definitely that will foster those good rivalries. And again, there's a lot of changes, but ultimately as an ex-player, once you just get into the season, the players they're robots in a sense, right? We get see ball, run ball, kick ball, we do that. And that's once they get into that rhythm, I think that'll happen very quickly. And then the business side of things will adjust as quickly as possible. And ultimately, again, in the summer, you bring in Momo, you bring in, Fitz, you bring in a few different players, and they have a preseason. It's not they don't immediately go in and Fitzy's on the bench 6 days.
No, I've thought this since I joined the club that, you watch it's back to the players as first and foremost, just players and their family as people, and they're coming in the middle of the season. Sometimes they're coming with family. They're coming with their pets. They're coming and they have to do you know this, like they got to find a place to live. Sometimes there's language barriers, like got to get a car. To do all this. And I've thought from the beginning, this is so wildly unfair to these guys because they're going to do all of that. And then they have to hurry up and get up to speed and they have to have impact now. And if they don't, people are going to start judging why they're not having impact right now. And it's like, take a breath, just like let them get acclimated and then let's sort of see where it goes. So you're right. I think that helps. I also think with this change, our playoffs will be in May now. And there's certainly other sports going on in May, but it doesn't really have us sort of in the crux of college football and the NFL in the same way. And I think that along with the changes at Apple where our product will be available for anybody who's got Apple and what is today Apple Plus, but they're going to pay an extra subscription for it, I think will also benefit in terms of just getting our games accessible to more people. We're growing, but we're just not growing fast enough. We need more fans as a sport. So I think between that and then some of the things that this is more the league, obviously, than it is a club level, but the folks at the league are doing with the team at Apple to really just keep evolving that product and the accessibility of it and making sure that the distribution of our games gets to the widest audience that it possibly can. I think some of those changes are going to be very good changes, and we need to obviously keep doing that. We've got to grow viewership.
Yeah, I think that's huge, right? and this is, again, I was part of the conversation. We walked with me and John G. We talked about a variety of different topics, but it was just accessibility. And one of them is getting fans to Allianz.
Right.
The second, a dad and his son, mom, daughter, whoever, they sit down and they watch a game, they're hooked. They're in. That's it. They just need one time. And I think for a lot of these games, they just need to be able to not necessarily have to pay $100 or whatever. Yeah. So that change is huge to be able to say, hey, I'm going to watch my local team because I have Apple Plus because I was watching Severance or whatever show or Ted Lasso. And then next thing you know, they tune into the Seattle game and they die 6 times like we did. And they go, I want to go to a game now. And I think that's such it's major tweak, but it's almost, for the average fan, it's not, they're not.
No, I think that's a big one, because the 2 points you're making go hand in hand to me. So, I mean, our job first and foremost is to make sure we're putting an amazing, in my old life, we would have said that we have an amazing product. I mean, this is soccer and it's people, so it's not really product in a certain way, but it is our job to make sure that what is happening on the pitch and what is happening in the game day experience for our fans is world-class. It's the best value for their money, and it is an amazing, respectful, fun experience. That's our job. Mm-hmm. The way that connects with viewership, to your point, is you also don't want people at home trying out our product for the first time, watching a game where there's 2,000 people in the stands. Sure. I mean, it's what are we doing? Yeah. So they have to go hand in hand. We have to be killing it on game day, and then we need to get the product more accessible in a number of different places. And I do think from there's so much in streaming content and options out there where you do get in other areas where you do get live sports product, but you get original programming and you get all the other stuff for your monthly fee. Mm-hmm. So I think this one's been, I understand it as a start with Apple, but it's been a little bit of an anomaly in terms of streaming product where you've got sort of streaming product specific to a sport rather than it's bundled with a bunch of other really cool content. And Apple is so good on content and so good on original content that I think all of this is a benefit to the fan. I really do.
No, definitely. And it's hopefully moving forward, once the schedule change happens, we have the World Cup coming up. I think hopefully that can be the spark. I think that could, we read the book, The Tipping Point, and it's always these bigger things. That could be hopefully the tipping point for the sport in the States, if not the sport in Minnesota, our state, to kind of get, another 25% jump in terms of fan engagement and all those different things. Because again, I firmly believe we have a stadium, and I don't say this about other places. I've played in every stadium, I think, besides Cincinnati. It is one of the few places where the fans can positively affect the team
100%.
And thrust them towards the goal.
And they know it, and you can see it.
Yeah, and you can see it. So that is so crucial here. It's not like that other places. Trust me, I've been there. And I'm not saying any names because I'm not that guy, but it is one of those things. So to get as many fans and get them engaged and get them loving the sport is crucial to our team performing well at home. And we already have that. And if we can take it up another notch, let's do that. And it's awesome. But speaking of looking forward, going into 2026, in terms of just updates, life updates, do you have any New Year's resolutions? Do we have any goals going forward for the New Year's? Are we going to try to go back to back with Executive of the Year? Are we going to do that?
No, we're definitely not doing that. I think personally, well, let's see. We'll get a little bit of time off here. Not everybody will, but once we get through probably another week or so here, most of the folks in the front office get a couple weeks off here. So I will be part of that and get a little bit of time off here. That is always between Christmas and New Year's is sort of the same thing for us every single year. It's a lot of football. It's a lot of time with friends. It's outside being active and just enjoying it. One of the things I do with my mom, and we've done this I bet we've done it for 15 years or something. We do something called the Mom and Shari Bowl Challenge.
There you go.
So once the college bowls are announced, in fact, the selection will take place this weekend. My mom and I go through, we look at the point spreads, we take turns picking teams, and then I take on my mom, basically. It's every college bowl game. Every game you win, you get a point. And my mom, let's see, in the times we've done it, my mom has won, I don't know what this says for my job, actually. My mom has won 80% of the time.
Really?
Oh, yeah, she's a maniac. So there's a what we call the big ugly trophy that goes along with it, and then whoever the winner gets to the winner gets to have the loser display the ugly trophy for the whole year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so this is a long-term tradition. We'll do our choices this weekend, and then I'll be riveted to all the college football bowl games to see if I can, at least this year, crush my mother, which up to this point I've not been able to do.
Do you do the spread or do you just do money line? Are we doing?
No, we do the spread.
Okay. So,
no, we're not, Zarek. We're not messing around.
Well, listen, I bet you guys didn't expect to hear that. But that's awesome. I know, because it's funny. It's a little bit of skin in the game, and some of these things really goes a long way.
Yeah.
As I will try to have as little skin in my Philadelphia Eagles game. I told you we're going to. I knew we were not going to do. We don't need to go down that route.
You did call that.
I was not feeling it. But
what do you tell me what you think for my Lions against the Rams this weekend?
That's a preview of the NFC Championship game.
You know how I am a long-suffering Detroit Lions fan, and I love the Lions. I like what Brad Holmes and MCDC have done. I think the Lions going to have to play a little bit better. We're just too uneven. That's the thing that makes me nervous. Like last year, super consistent for sure on the offensive line. Defense a little bit different, but a little bit inconsistent this year on the offensive line. Then we can't get Jamar going, and then Jared gets a little pressure, but looked good against Dallas. I'm very happy with that. And I will be speaking of riveted, I will be riveted to that game this weekend and cheering them on.
Is it at home or away?
I think it's in LA.
Okay. Well, I still got you guys.
Am I right, Chris? I think it's in LA.
What I will say is,
you don't have us in LA though.
No, last year you guys had a million injuries.
Yeah.
If you guys didn't have that, it would have been us in the NFC Championship game. It would have been, but you guys, the defense
we had nothing left.
Literally, it was they almost called me and you to get back there and play free safety.
You're going to start just ahead of me as free safety.
We'll see. But listen, I just want to say, we went over our normal allotted time, but I want to say thank you so much for a lot of the insight. I thought the first part of our discussion was really interesting to get just insight into your decision-making processes and what's made you successful, because my view of leadership as a player is maybe somewhat scarred via my time. But ultimately, you've developed an incredible balance to help build amazing things here, bring in really good people, bring in really good leaders. And again, I would say put people in place to let them do their jobs and to empower them as much as possible. For me, that's the sign of a good leader. And there's no better person to have got the executive of the year. I'm very biased, but I still know how damn good you are.
Thank you.
And one thing I would say, the one thing I took from you this year, I tried to take in a lot. You saw me with my little notebook. Was you, and I tried to do this on the pitch, was you dole out praise. I would say when it calls for it, so people know that when they get praise via something.
I mean it.
That's the thing. And I think that at times we almost overdo it. Good pass, and it's like, well, that's just a pass. That's a 10-yard pass that you played to the right foot. We shouldn't be giving them flowers for that. But if someone does have a good game, if they have a good session, if they do this, when you go up and you pull them aside and you put the arm around them, it means more because you're not doing it all the time. So one thing in a lot of the Q1, 2, 3 meetings, and whenever we'd meet, you always doled out praise, and people knew that it came from such a good place and it meant something. It really had weight. So that's something I tried to institute into my own coaching, I would say, philosophy, to not always dole out praise just to do it, but to really have intention behind that, because I think you do that. But
thank you.
Again, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me here on the Sound of the Loons podcast, brought to you by Line of Health. We touched on a variety of different topics. If I don't see you, have a very happy holiday.
You too. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And again, thank you so much for stopping in.
Yeah, you're easy. Thank you. I enjoy you a lot.
Appreciate it.